Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is a bit weird to say that because this is actually not my first YouTube video. I like to do this thing where I go on this really long streak of posting and then I just randomly wake up one morning and I decide that's really embarrassing and I'm going to take it down. I think a lot about the time when I was in like 3rd grade making Littlest Pet Shop videos, not even videos, like TV shows, full episodic, like week by week installments, written, directed, filmed, edited, just completely by my 3rd grade self, and just randomly woke up one day and deleted them, and that could have made me somebody by now if I had stuck to that. Fast forward to middle school when I started my Minecraft phase and I was making, again, episodic role plays, and deleted those as well. And then last semester I started a vlogging phase that I also did not finish, but this time, genuinely, I'm going to stick to it because so much in my life is changing right now and I want to document it. If you're watching, you are probably a family or a friend, because that's all who follows me right now, it seems. But on the odd chance that you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Macy, and I just graduated from East Tennessee State University with a bachelor's in media and communication and a concentration in radio, television, and film. In the fall, however, I will be starting my master's program at Columbia University, which is why we are going from Hay Farm to New York City. So I'm actually getting my master's in journalism at Columbia, but plot twist, I actually got into 2 different programs, which is crazy to say because when I was applying to Columbia, I was really just hoping that I could ease my way into one. And so getting into both was an absolutely insane time of my life. It was probably the biggest crisis I've ever had trying to decide between the 2. So I got into the journalism program with a documentary concentration, but I also got into the film program with a screenwriting and directing concentration. It felt like I was having to choose between my 2 life passions, and it was really hard for me to come to terms with the fact that I wasn't making a decision between the 2. I was just picking what my life was going to look like probably for the next few years and maybe getting ahead in one more so than the other, but I didn't have to give up the other passion completely. But it obviously does not feel like that when you're in it, so it was a really, really difficult choice, and ultimately a lot of that decision came down to financial factors, time, and what I was awarded in scholarships, and the level of prestige. The journalism program is pretty regularly ranked as either the #1 or the #2 program in the United States, and it just felt like I would be crazy not to take that opportunity. And I love journalism, but I have wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid. I actually started writing books before I even understood how to write at all. I would bring printer paper to my family members and I would ask them to write down the stories that I'd tell them. And I'd staple those together and those would be my books. And I've just been doing that my whole life. Books, screenplays, everything in the creative writing realm. I took some poetry classes in undergrad as well. But when I got to college, I wanted to make sure that I was still writing and holding myself accountable in that, which is why I joined the newspaper. Now, stay with me here. I never thought that I would be cut out for journalism growing up because it requires you to be okay with a lot of hypercriticism, and you're working so in the public eye, and it just felt very daunting. I was a very sensitive kid. But once I got into it and I wrote for 2 years for the paper, I fell in love very quickly. I was jumping through barricades to get the right story. I was meeting people with the intention of getting into new doors. I was taking on these projects that were just so far beyond me, and I was doing hours of research to do justice to my stories. And that was because I had realized that journalism is advocacy. It's a way to uplift people's voices who otherwise wouldn't have been heard. And in places like mine, hay farms in the middle of nowhere, getting good journalism is really difficult and it's really important. Like 2 years ago, Hurricane Helene came through my community, and it was more so my community around my college town than my hometown, but so many people that I went to school with, people that I worked with on the newspaper even, were affected by this. They'd lost loved ones, they'd lost their houses, they didn't have electricity or running water, they didn't have any means of knowing what was happening in their community. And even our college newspaper was working overtime to get those stories out because there was just no other way for people to know. And the story of Hurricane Helene barely left our region as well. And seeing things like that, even just as a young journalist, has really shown me how important this career actually is. And despite people liking to say that journalism is a dying career, it's kind of not dying, it's just being phased out by the fact that there's so much misinformation out today. Everybody thinks that they're a journalist, and it's really just not knowing where to get the right information from. So the fact that there are so many people who still want to go into this career and have the motivation to be a good journalist and to do proper advocacy work is really inspiring. And I'm so lucky to be one of those people that are going to this really awesome program and hopefully trying to build a better tomorrow. I also served as executive editor of my newspaper for the past 2 years, so not only was I able to be a writer, but I was also able to be over the newspaper and to be kind of in charge of 45 different people who are doing writing, editing, translating, photography, videography, design, all kinds of different areas of production. So I've got to see journalism in all of its stages, and I genuinely love all of it. And it was really sad for me to say goodbye to my college newspaper because it kind of became my home, but I'm really excited to step into this new chapter and find a new home. So that is why I'm moving to New York. But there's obviously a lot of factors that are going into this because, to tell you the truth, I've only been to New York once, and I was 12, and it was for one day on a field trip. So that's the knowledge that I'm working with and what I've learned from the internet. It's been very helpful. I met a girl who is also going to Columbia, who's my age, for grad school, and we're going to be living together. And she has been subletting for the summer, finding our apartment for us, and that has been extremely helpful because I genuinely don't know how I would have found a place to stay besides that. And also just in calling people and getting to know people who are in my program, who are in other programs at Columbia, who've graduated, who are industry professionals now, who did this years ago. I've learned a lot over the summer, and I feel a lot more prepared than I was several months ago when I rolled over in bed and saw the email that I had gotten in and lost my mind. It's also a really interesting time to be moving to New York because the Knicks could win. And I know that if you're watching this years from now, you're probably like, what is she talking about? But the internet is going crazy right now. Everybody is talking about how the vibes are so good in New York, and I feel like I'm missing out. But I hope to be there starting next month. I'm taking a month before I actually start classes to figure out what I'm doing, and I'm going to take you guys with me in that process, and I think it's probably going to be really embarrassing and a mess, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, very excited. I think the things that I'm most nervous about are figuring out the subway. Genuinely have no idea where to begin with that, but I'll have to. So finances as well, even just looking at rent prices right now, that is so much more than it is around here. And I was very lucky to not have to pay my way through college. I had a full scholarship, and part of that scholarship covered my apartment cost. So I'm having to figure out how to be a big girl and how to actually pay my rent, not just from a financial aspect, but also from a logistics aspect, and being able to show my documents to a real estate agent and figure out how to sign a lease and how to renew a lease. And it's felt like really, I don't know, daunting, but also kind of fun in a way because I know that I'm growing up and I'm coming into my own, and my undergrad days are left behind. I'm actually stepping into adulthood now, so that's really interesting to figure out. I also want to make sure that I'm continuing to make content and not just deciding to delete everything one day. I talked about this a little bit, but I have so much insecurity when it comes to actually continuing to make content. And I think that I do better with long form things like this than I do short form, because I have this thing where I just get really bogged down in feeling like I'm not being my authentic self when I filmed something like really short that maybe doesn't show off my personality a whole lot, especially if I've planned something like meticulously. And I just don't like putting stuff about myself on the internet that doesn't even really feel like me wholeheartedly. So I'm trying to work through that insecurity and just maybe do some more longer pieces on YouTube like this if I can actually stick to it, and just find my voice online, because I want to be my authentic self for you guys, but also for myself when I'm looking back at these memories. I don't want to feel like I'm just doing something to perform for a camera. Not that people do that. I have no idea what's going on in influencers' lives, and I'm certainly not an influencer, but yeah, I want to be putting out things that feel like me, and so I'm trying to find that path, and I think I'll find it more when I actually get to New York and that phase of my life really begins. And I also think that that's something that I want to talk about in another video as well, because I've learned a lot over the past few years about just crafting an image and feeling like yourself online. So if you want to see that, let me know. I'm also going to be working with a really crazy schedule. Grad school is very different from undergrad. So my classes, and I don't actually have my schedule yet, but from talking to people, what I understand is that I'm mostly going to have like an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. kind of class schedule, and that's not different classes, that's like one class, and it's kind of like working, more so than lecture. So I'm very excited for that, actually, because I love working in news, but it's going to be a very different change of pace, and then having that on top of the New York fast-paced, long traveling distances, I think that's going to be a lot to have to navigate. And I'm also going to need to get a job as well, because I'm going to have to be able to pay my rent. So navigating classwork plus a work schedule is probably going to be really stressful. So I'm hoping to take that first month that I'm there before classes start to figure out as much as I can and getting myself into a routine. That's very important. I love my routines, and I also love my mental health walks. So I need to work those into my schedule ahead of time. This is going to stray a little bit away from the vibe we've had so far, but I lost my dad in October of this past year. So having to figure out finances and moving into an apartment, and even just like moving furniture from point A to point B, is just completely different than what I had always thought it would look like, because my dad was always the person helping me move in from my apartment in undergrad. He was always the person that I knew I could rely on. If anything went awry financially in my life, he could kind of be there to catch me. And my mom can as well, but life just looks so different right now from what we ever could have predicted it to look like. And for all of these big changes to be happening in my life when dad's not here and we're still trying to figure out a sense of normalcy is just really adding to a lot of the stress. And mostly I just feel sad that I can't tell him. I lost him before I found out about Columbia, and so I feel like I just talk about it all the time, A, because I'm proud and I'm excited, but because I can't tell the one person that deserves to hear that. He worked so hard his whole life to give me the opportunities that I have, because he didn't have those opportunities growing up. And to not be able to say, hey dad, I got into an Ivy League school, I'm moving to New York to start my career, I got into a top journalism program, it's like, oof, it's not fun. It's really not fun. Anybody who's going through something similar right now, I understand you, and I understand the pain of that. Just another layer of it, I am a young woman, and being a young woman in any city is really scary, so I am gonna have to probably watch myself a lot more than I do in middle of nowhere Tennessee. But the social climate, the political climate, the way that people are so diverse and accepting of one another, I'm very excited for. I do have a lot of friends that agree with me socially, politically, in all of those areas, because that does exist in Tennessee, contrary to popular belief, but I'm very excited to be in a place where that is the majority mindset. When I think about goals for the next few years, I really want to work for NBC in some capacity, at least for a short period of time if I can. When I was applying to Columbia, I talked about that in all of my applications. I have this huge dream of working for Saturday Night Live or a nighttime talk show specifically. I would just love to do that. Even if I was running and getting coffee orders, I would love to be in that studio. And I kind of weaved this like master plan of like going to Columbia, getting the internship, really impressing people and hoping they keep me on. And I feel like a lot of people probably have a similar dream in mind in this kind of career field. I would be happy to work anywhere in broadcast, genuinely, but when I think about like the one area that if I could just have it my way and I could just make a wish right now and something would happen for me, I would want to be doing something on Saturday Night Live. So we'll see if I can ease my way into that door somehow, but in general, I want to work in broadcasting. I'm also a novelist. I've written several books, and the querying process of trying to get published is just really insane, and I've been trying for several years, and hopefully somebody will take a chance on me. That would be the real dream, to be working in media, to be working in screenwriting or production in some element, be in broadcast, and to also be a published author. If I look back in 10 years and I've accomplished all of that, then I can say I have lived out my life's dreams. The life dream that I've had since I was a little kid. So I hope that moving to New York can make those opportunities so much more accessible to me, and I intend to work really hard to find them as well. So I will hopefully take you along for that if we can make it happen. The last piece that I wanted to talk about in this very general before everything starts chat is just the things that I've learned from undergrad to grad school. I have grown so much in the past 4 years. When I started, I had a lot of insecurity. I was very quiet. And I just had not the best high school experience. I've actually given a TED Talk about my experiences. If you would like to watch that, that would be really awesome. Some things that I've learned about prioritizing mental health, about supporting your friends, and about shedding your old skin and every day being a new day and a new possibility to change. That TED Talk experience was very transformative for me in the fact that I had to actually reflect on the things that I've learned and to hopefully inspire other people as well. And I hope that going to Columbia, even though it's just 1 year, I can be the butterfly that I cocooned out of over the past 4 years, but also learn so much more being in a different environment, being with new people. And something that one of my advisors told me in my last meeting the week before I graduated was to make sure that all of the progress you've made as a person does not revert back once you go to New York. To make sure that you are being your true self, and to be confident and proud of yourself, and to know that you can be the person that you want to be, and that even though the things that you're involved with currently are going away, they still shape you and they still have made you the person that you are today, and that you should walk into every room feeling like Macy. And I think that was really great advice, and I fully intend to remind myself of that going into every new room going forward. So yeah, this was just a little chat that I wanted to have before I really get into the finer details of moving and restarting my life. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around to see what stuff I get into in the future. If you liked this video, like and subscribe, and I might have some more content coming out pretty soon, some very different content, so check that out as well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in New York.